Hello to all of you current and future American Legion players as well as parents. My name is Jake Dixon. I am from Oneida, Illinois. I went to Rova High School, and recently the one and only C.R. Smith had reached out to me over Facebook asking if I would shoot a video talking about the benefits of American Legion baseball and my own personal experience having played there locally through Post 727 in Oneida. Now, before I get into some of that, I just want to first give an introduction in the event that you don't know who I am. Again, my name is Jake. My parents were Mike and Karen Dixon. Maybe some of you know who my parents were, but I graduated Rova High School in 2001. I was inducted into the Rova Sports Hall of Fame just several years ago, which was really neat. A little bit background, I guess, as far as the baseball is concerned. I was drafted out of high school by the Oakland A's in the 18th round. Yes, I was drafted out of high school in the middle of the cornfields, as many of you well know, over there in Oneida, and ended up turning that down to take a full-ride baseball scholarship to the University of North Florida. At that time, I had been recruited by 28 Division I colleges and universities and all 30 major league teams, but you know, I've always kind of gone one step at a time and turned down that opportunity, like I said, to pursue college instead, knowing full well going to a four-year university that I would be draft eligible again come my junior year. Well, fast forward to my junior year, I did in fact get drafted again. That was fresh off Tommy John surgery. I have a scar to prove it. But this time, instead of being drafted as a hitter / first baseman like I was out of high school, I got drafted this time out of college as a pitcher. So it was kind of neat to be drafted for both respective positions. I'd always played both, was always pretty good at both, but in hindsight, all the pro scouts, I remember them telling me that my future in professional baseball was actually as a hitter. Now you can't tell because I'm sitting down right now. I'm 6'6". I'm a big dude. But in my heart and how I was kind of always raised mentally and all that, I was a pitcher. So I was never really willing to give that up. So I did get drafted as both. I went to college as both and ended up choosing pitching. Whether it was a right or wrong decision, who knows? But maybe I should have dedicated myself more to hitting, but that's all in hindsight. During that same period of time, you know, I was a member of the ABCA High School All-American team, made the All-State team, got the Peoria Journal-Star Player of the Year recognition, made the 2005 College World Series Tournament team, 2005 South Atlantic Regional MVP during the tournament, on and on and on. But enough about me. The real reason that I was asked to be on here is just to really speak to the benefits and experience, real life, real world experience of not only going through American Legion baseball and all the things that come with that, but also how it translates into later in life. And that's where I want to pick up. I want to speak to you about, you know, American Legion baseball and not feeling like you have to pay to play. Look, I'm not anti-travel ball. I'm not any of those things, but here's the reality. There's enough opportunity right in front of you through Legion baseball that I don't want anybody, especially those of you, you know what I'm talking about. We're from the sticks, man, right? And we sometimes have this fear that we've got to pay to play or to play up and be a part of these big travel tournament teams and things like that to advance to the next level. And I, along with so many other people, are living proof that is not true. I have never once paid to play in my entire career. I figure, you know what? If you're good enough, they will find you. And they will find you. Now, I realize everybody watching this, sons, daughters, whatever, you may not have a goal like I did to play at the next level, and that's okay. So I'm going to kind of speak to both elements of this, but like I said, if you're good, and they're going to find you. And I did have the great fortune of playing for the legendary John Clark. Many of you hopefully know who John Clark is, head coach for years and years and years for Post 727, Oneida Legion, and I played several summers through John there. He was not my high school coach at the time, although he did later go on to coach at the high school as well. But I want to share this brief story with you and really kind of put this into perspective, okay? So there was a summer between my junior and senior years of high school, so going into my senior year of high school, that something magical happened. And actually, this magical moment was in Farmington, Illinois, where many of you, I'm sure, have played or will play at, in Farmington, Illinois. Now, I was set to pitch that particular game. It was a night game, so lights were on, all that stuff. I was set to pitch. So I'm in there in the bullpen warming up before the game. And there's always a couple of scouts by that time coming to see, me play and things like that. That particular game, we had Dewey Calmer, former head coach at Bradley University, and a couple junior college guys that were in the stands, and they would come up and introduce themselves. They had the radar guns out and all that stuff. But I remember warming up and seeing this gentleman that I had never seen before. I never recognized him before. And so remember that, because I went on to play one of the best games I had of that entire summer, where I think it was a complete game, one hitter. I had 2 home runs that game and a couple other base hits or whatever. So I had a really good game in front of, these few scouts. So anyways, after the game, this guy in a straw hat, khaki pants, walks up to me that I had seen when I was warming up in the bullpen. Like, you can just tell he was a scout. He was with somebody, but I'd never recognized him anymore before. And he wasn't wearing any clothes to necessarily give away what college or something that he was from. Well, this guy comes up and he shakes my hand and he introduces himself as Doug Horning. Well, Doug Horning was the Major League Scouting Bureau representative for this entire Midwest region. And there's only a few MLB Scouting Bureau reps in the entire country. And you're not going to believe this. I later found out that Doug Horning actually flew into Chicago to go see a few players, because these Major League Scouting Bureau scouts scout on behalf of all 30 Major League teams. So he was literally driving from Chicago down to somewhere around St. Louis, where he happened to see, this is his story, he happened to see the lights at a ball field, be it Farmington, Illinois, as he's making the trip. And he decided, well, you know what, there must be a game going on. I'm going to pull over and watch the game. Well, wouldn't you know it, that game is the very game that I was at and had one of the best games of my entire summer in front of a man who represents all 30 Major League teams for the Major League Scouting Bureau. I mean, you can't make this stuff up, right? So this opportunity that you have to play Legion baseball not only means that you can get representation for your local town, your local community, that jersey you're wearing, you're representing a whole lot more people than just yourself. But when it does come to yourself, you have every opportunity to be seen and visible and scouted, or whatever your end goal is, right there in your hometown. Like I said before, if you're good enough, they will find you. Now, these are so many fond memories that I could go on and on about forever that will be with me forever. The summers and getting to play with guys that, from the area that I still have great relationships and friendships with to this day are going to last me forever. And I'm not saying I couldn't have those same experiences necessarily playing on travel ball teams and things like that, but I just think there's something cool. I've always played with a chip on my shoulder. I'm a small town dude, and I love going up against those big town guys and proving them wrong and showing them, showing them where we came from. There's a lot of lessons packed into that. Small town boys going up against the big city guys, right? And a lot of what I learned in those days, I still apply in my adult life today, whether it be from work ethic to teamwork to appreciating the journey and just, frankly, not allowing certain people to place limitations on what's possible. And I'm happy to say that today I've got the fortune of running a national real estate coaching and training company that we own. We launched it from idea to what it is today, where we have several hundred real estate companies that we support, tens of thousands of real estate agents that we support. And I talk about baseball daily, you guys. It still carries with me to this very day in what I do now that the baseball days are over with, through using sports analogies, referencing baseball all the time. And just think about it, right? Baseball is a game of failure. We hear that a lot. But have you thought about this? It is the only sport that I can tell where the defense is in control of the ball. Every other sport that I can rattle off, at least major sports, the offense is in control of the ball. But in baseball, the defense is actually in control of the ball, as if it weren't hard enough to hit that thing anyways, right? So it's just a very special game, and what better way to represent your community, share those experiences in summer travels and overnight hotel stays and things with your buddies and the people that you grew up with representing small town life, going up against those big city guys and kicking their tail. You know what I'm talking about. So I want to leave you with this. I've got 5 distinct stories, and I consider these defining moments in my life. Maybe you can relate, and maybe you'll have your own, and I know you'll have your own defining moments as well. So I'm just going to go through these very quickly. Defining moment number 1 in baseball was this. It was my sophomore year of high school. Now again, John Clark was not my high school coach at the time. But to make a long story short, there was a Midwest storm that was blowing through during a playoff game. We were playing Sherrard, Illinois playoff game. Second inning, umpires decided to call the game, postpone it. We were going to pick up with the rest of the game tomorrow or whatever it was, okay? Well, what happened in that game was after the umpires called it off, apparently we were not getting the equipment picked up quick enough to our coach's liking. It was thundering, lightning, raining cats and dogs, and he was scurrying around, stressing out to get all the equipment up and run into the Rova gymnasium for a team meeting. Well, once we got in there, because by now he's hot, he's mad, whatever, he sits us all down and he points his finger right in my face in front of all my teammates. And he says, "None of you will ever see the inside of a college or pro stadium unless you buy a ticket." Verbatim, those were his words. Now, he probably doesn't remember those words. I do. Literally, he said, "None of you will ever see the inside of a college or pro stadium unless you buy a ticket," waving that pointer finger right in my face. Well, at that moment, guys, I was faced with a decision, and you might find yourself in a similar moment. I could have said, you know what, you're probably right. After all, I'm from a town of 700 people in the middle of the cornfields and bean fields of Illinois. After all, who's going to find me? Most people don't go on to play sports. They go on to farm and do other things and all of that, right? Which, by the way, there's nothing wrong with. But it just wasn't the course I wanted to go down for my life. Baseball was my love. It was everything. And I don't know what was going to happen, but I wasn't going to let that man tell me what I could or could not do. So from that point, 6'6" tall, I stopped playing basketball. I stopped doing everything, and I went all in with baseball. I am not recommending that be what you do. I think there's a great value in playing multiple sports for as long as you can. It was just my decision to take what that person said and prove him wrong and live out my dream. And after all, I've seen some pretty cool stadiums in my time. So, as they say, the rest is history. But what did I learn in that moment? A couple things. More than a couple things. Don't give up on your dreams. Just because somebody gave up on their dreams does not give them permission to talk you out of yours. Okay? So if he had aspirations to go on and do big things and never did, I'm sorry. But that does not give you permission to squash or belittle mine. So in essence, let your haters be your motivators. Play with a chip on your shoulder, whether it's something that you've got to prove it to your friends, your community, or whatever. There's something magical that when you play like you've got something to prove, you tend to show up differently. You lean in a little bit more. You're more crisp taking infield and outfield practice, things like that. When adversity hits, what do you choose? Are you going to advance boldly in the direction of your dreams, or are you going to retreat fearfully into a world of mediocrity and allow people to say, I told you so. That's for someone else to do. No, I don't believe that. The real gift inside of that day was it lit this flame inside of me that I was made to do more, and I'm never going to be that person to someone else who squashes their dreams and goals. It's now my responsibility to pull out every bit of potential that they have so they can realize their dreams. So that's number one. Number two is the Legion game I just got done telling you about. Here's the lesson I learned that day. You never know who's watching. You never know who's watching, you guys. Imagine if Doug Horning, let alone the other scouts that were there, they're looking for every reason to just put a line through my name, get back in the car, and head up the road to see some other kid play. You never know who's watching. Not only did I have a great game, yes, sure, I had the great game in front of the right people. But what if I would have had that same game, and one time that I got out, I didn't hustle my butt down that line? Or if I struck out, I went back slamming my helmet, looking like a hot dog. Look, if you hit a home run, run the bases. Act like you done it before. There's people watching you, and don't give those people any reason to check you off their list onto the next kid. Are you playing to win, or are you playing not to lose, right? It's not about slamming the helmet, kicking the dirt, not hustling down the line. No, you play full on because you never know who's watching. And that name, not on the back of your jersey, but on the front of your jersey, represents something bigger than you or me individually. And I'm going to wear that with respect, and I'm going to respect the game that's afforded us so many life lessons and opportunities along the way. Number 3 is my arm injury. So I had showed you the scar earlier. I had Tommy John surgery after my sophomore year of college. I came back 2 years, pitched on it great, throwing harder, better than ever before. 94, 95, here it comes. And then I re-injured it for a second time, and I always promised myself that I would never get a second surgery. If I ever retore it, I'm done. I'm moving on with life. Well, guess what? It's my very first year in pro ball. I retore the darn thing. It was actually on July 4th, 2006, out in Idaho Falls, Idaho. I'll never forget it. That I retore my arm. And we got back to the hotel on the bus. All the guys, first round picks, everybody gets off the bus, and I'm the last guy off. And I knew that Tom Kochman, his son was Casey Kochman, played in the big leagues. Tom Kochman was always the last to get off the bus. He was our general manager. He was our coach. So knowing that, I too stayed late. And after everybody got off, here I come, and I say, "Coach, can I talk to you for a second?" And he looks up at me. He said, "It's your arm, isn't it?" He knew. Probably because I had teary-eyed, but he knew. He knew I re-injured that pitching elbow. And that's all. I broke down. And I just went out and curled up in the fetal position against that hotel wall. Nasty hotel, by the way. And for hours, I just sat there curled up because that was it. Everything I thought I was going to do was gone in an instant. So what did I learn through that experience? Well, again, it's that whole adversity thing. But some of us are choosing fear over faith. And I'm going to encourage you to choose faith over fear. Both are believing in something that you cannot see. So which is it going to be? Are you going to choose faith? Or are you going to buy into the fear or other things that people are feeding you, that noise that's out there? You know what I'm talking about. It's the keyboard warriors. It's everybody who's got an opinion who says, no, that's not for you. Right? It's not only until looking backwards sometimes can we connect the dots on why certain things happen in our lives. You guys have an opportunity right now to come together and represent your community playing a game and a sport that you love. Not only till later in life might you look back and say, oh, that's why things played out the way they did. Okay? The journey matters. It's not just about the destination. There's no fun if you and I just met at the Diamond and I awarded you this massive trophy saying, congratulations, you won the championship. You're the best. Maybe for 20 minutes you celebrate with your teammates, but if that's all it was, I don't think it's as fulfilling as all the blood, sweat, tears, the practices, the showing up early, the staying late, the losses, as well as the wins, that when now I get to hoist that trophy up, now that means something. So appreciate this journey. Don't just look towards the destination. That's not what defines you. Let the journey and the process fulfill you. Fourth one. Training and preparation. So in college, we had to get up at 4:30 in the morning and go lift weights every single day. Every year we had to do something called the flex off, which was all of us right before we go on Christmas break in college. We've got to get up on stage, lathered up in baby oil. I know. And in front of hundreds and hundreds of sorority women, we would get up there and flex and do this whole show. Absolute embarrassment for someone like me. Okay? We had Hell Week, where the week we got back from Christmas break, knowing we probably ate and bummed around, we did like the military does and went through entire Hell Week. On average, we would run 8, 10, 12 miles per day, and it was not fun. A lot of soreness, a lot of fractures, a lot of, vomiting and not so pleasant things during that Hell Week. 5x5s, we'll get into that a little bit more. So here's my point in sharing all of that with you, and that's just a fraction, okay? Sometimes you just got to embrace the suck. You've got to love this game so much that you're willing to endure the things that maybe aren't so fun, but you're going to trust that process because you love this game so much. Guys, I hated lifting weights. I hated running. I hated getting up there, flexing my muscles in front of people I don't know. Hated all that, but you know what? I was willing to do it because I freaking love that game so much, where I'm going to stand on that pitcher's mound, stare straight down that tunnel and say, here you go, big boy. I dare you to hit it. If you're going to beat me, you're going to beat me on my best stuff today. Here it is. Right? I love the game so much, and I bet you do too. Those extra moments, those practices, those things when coach is yelling at you and saying, get on the line, it's all worth it. Trust me, in the end, and your future self is thanking you, okay? But I got news for you. Success, whatever that means, okay, it can be boring. It can be repetitious. It's hard freaking work. There are no shortcuts. Tune in last year to the home run derby. Pete Alonso, they just captured him in the middle of the home run derby last year. Pete Alonso for the Mets ended up winning it last year, by the way. And in the middle of this home run derby, they just caught him putting a baseball on a tee in the tunnel underneath the stadium, taking reps off of a tee in the middle of a home run derby. And yet I work with kids who say, oh, that's Little League stuff. That's T-ball stuff, coach. I don't want to work off the tee. I don't want to do that throwing drill. And they're up there doing all this extra stuff because they see big leaguers doing that. Well, I've got news for you. If Pete Alonso and the best of the best who are making millions upon millions of dollars a year are still hitting a ball off a tee, still doing basic fundamental drills, you have not arrived. Okay? Marry the process, divorce the results, and just get over yourself and accept the fact that the best in the game are doing it, and they're the best for a reason because they have mastered the fundamentals. It matters who you surround yourself with. If your teammate is not holding you accountable to hitting that ball off the tee as crisp and sharp with backspin as you can, shame on them, and vice versa. We don't stop until we're practicing and mastering the fundamentals. And there's a lot I learned in that moment. Now, the last one is this. Don't be late and touch the line. Standards matter. What I accept of a teammate is the same thing later in life that I'm going to learn to accept of myself. There is no such thing as a minimum standard because the standard is the standard. Get it? Our choices affect others. And so in this case, the story from my experience was we had to do what's called 5x5s. For every loss the previous year, we were consistently a top 5 nationally ranked team in college. For every loss the previous year, the following year, we had to do 25 5x5s for each loss. And we would do that after lifting weights at 4:30 in the morning. So what a 5x5 was is we went out to the tennis courts. Down, back, down, back, down was 1. We had to do 25 of those. Down, back, down was 1. Not only did you have to legit sprint and go as fast as you could, so you're dog tired anyways from doing weights prior to that, but also you had to touch the line. It's a standard. Touch the line. It's real simple. Well, guess what? There was also this rule that if anybody didn't touch the line and God forbid coach caught you, that's it. We start over. We go back to 0. There was one morning, I specifically remember, we were at 24, number 24 of 25. We're almost done. Okay. Well, one of my teammates decided not to touch the line. Coach saw that, and what did he do? Standards. We started at 0. We were literally at number 24. Guy didn't touch the line. We started back at 0. Swear to God. Had to start all over again. Your choices affect others. People are watching. Standards matter. Do you see a trend here? Right? That's what builds character, you guys. Character is what you do when nobody's looking. It's not what you do when you know mom and dad or aunts and uncles or coaches watching you. It's what you do when no one's looking. See, in that moment, maybe he thought coach was just looking the other way. Nobody's going to see it after all. Or even if he saw it, he'd probably let it go. He's not going to enforce that thing after all. No. No, he did. Very much so. See, here's the deal. Whatever I say yes to, that means I'm saying no to something else. What is it? In that moment, he said yes to average, which means he said no to greatness. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Sir Isaac Newton. If I want to flex my bicep muscle, that means my tricep has to do what? It's got to relax. Conversely, if I want to flex my tricep, that means my bicep has to relax. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. What are you saying yes to right now? And what does that mean you're saying no to? Think about it. Last thing is this: results matter. It's all fun and games, and I want you to have a blast. But in preparation for what lies ahead in life, results do matter. This is a fun game, and it will humble you in a heartbeat. But make no mistake about it, winning and results do matter. I remember our coach would always tell us in college, again, a lot of college references, everything is better when you win. He said, your girlfriend's going to look better, you're going to sleep better, your food tastes better, you're going to get better grades. Everything is better when you win. It's contagious. So show up. What's that quote? Amateurs practice until they get it right, but professionals practice until they can't get it wrong. What's your standard? How are you holding yourself accountable? What do you expect of your teammates? And what are you allowing them to get away with? And what do you accept they call you out in return? If you create a team bond, an expectation like that, you will beat the big city guys. I had opportunities to play at very big, well-known colleges. I chose to go University of North Florida, top 5 nationally ranked team at the time. But I could have gone to the big fancy title names, University of Illinois, University of Iowa, whatever, okay? But I'll tell you something. We played and whomped the Notre Dames, the Ohio States, the University of Michigans, the Miamis, the Florida States, the University of Floridas. We beat them all. Not because we were the most talented team in the world. Line up one by one, we probably weren't. In fact, I know we weren't, talent-wise. But we had this bond. We had something nobody could touch. Our work ethic, our discipline, our commitment to greatness, and each other. Look to my left, look to my right. I knew those boys had my back and I had theirs. And we gave each other permission to get on each other's you-know-what if at any point we weren't holding up our end of the bargain. We weren't touching the line, so to speak. Shouldn't have taken coach to point it out. We took it upon ourselves to point it out, and we're peer-to-peer policing those standards and guidelines that coach had implemented into us. And for that, I'm forever grateful now in my adult life that all those principles I learned, all dating back full circle to that one game in front of the right person during an American Legion baseball game. Didn't pay to play, wasn't on some fancy travel ball team circuit, didn't go to a showcase. It was just, I don't know what you want to call it, luck, good fortune, or hard work that finally paid off. That I had the right game in front of the right person. And everything else, that was the domino that got knocked down. That everything else thereafter, I'm forever appreciative of. And I'm appreciative now that you've watched this and stuck with me this long. If there's anything I can ever do to support you all, I'm there. I think what y'all are doing is amazing. I love hearing the demand and interest now for summer American Legion baseball. And I tip my cap to C.R. Smith and everybody there involved. You guys are amazing, and just appreciate you guys sticking with me for this long. All right? Jake Dixon, Rova High School, 2001. Over and out, guys. Thanks a lot.